Thank you guys for joining us. We're here in the Comic Cave with Eric Peterson. And Joe, your last name is pronounced Aubrey?
Aubrey, that's right, yeah.
And with Joe Aubrey, the two creators of the Space Bastards, we enjoyed this book very much. And we thank you guys for sitting down with us tonight and just chatting. Starting off, where did the inspiration for Space Bastards come from?
Yeah, I don't know. I always like made comics or made movies or like visual storytelling stuff. And when I was starting out, like I always wanted the idea. I wanted more Boba Fett stories. I wanted more like Han Solo stories, like the scoundrel side of that stuff. And I think I've always had kind of like a little bit more of rated R sense of humor and all that. So those two things kind of bled together. When I was in film school and back when I met Joe, which is going back now almost 20 years, it was like I wanted to tell these stories of guys that hated their jobs and the biggest thing was like I needed an excuse for like setting changes. I needed a thing for like a reason for somebody to go from like planet A to planet B. Like they've got to have some sort of like like a thing to take, a MacGuffin, whatever, right? And it was Joe when talking that kind of like we originally did do like the Intergalactic Postal Service, but the actual rules, like the death race part of it was more Joe's Joe's tinkering, and then eventually we made some movies together, and then it became a comic book. Joe was right. I tell long stories, man. I'm sorry.
Fine, dude. Fine.
That's what we want to hear. That's what the people want to hear.
Yeah.
And so how did the whole introduction with Darick Robertson and Simon Gleasley, how did that come about? Like, how did you guys approach them? Did they approach you? How did that whole thing go down?
I pestered Darick, I think going back to maybe 2012 even. I think going back that far, I was asking him like, look at this thing. I really want you to be a part of it. like constantly. And there was a point where Joe and I had kind of made a Space Bastards like prototype comic. And then when we were talking about it, like visually it all worked because it was movie stuff. And then we were like, okay, well, this movies suck. Like movies are so hard to make. And they're just really, they take so much money and time. Like you like break up with girlfriends and friends over it, all that stuff. I mean, it's just like everybody wants to help you with your little thing because they think it's going to be the next Reservoir Dogs. What they don't expect is to be on set for like 15 hours, 3 days in a row, and then they're just like, yeah, screw this, man, this is terrible. And so, except for Joe hung with me through all that. And that was the thing, we made this prototype comic, like once we decided we're just gonna make comics instead, like let's try it in comics, because I know how to make comics. I did a book called Jesus Christ in the Name of the Gun before, which did okay. And then we were like, if anybody could work on Space Bastards, who would it be? And then Darick was like top of mind for sure. He was like the biggest, and I had already kind of known him, and then time was kind of.
We just approached him in a convention, though, right? I mean, it wasn't like the video in our Kickstarter, but
like the Kickstarter video with
the yeah. I mean,
the initial one's kind of. I mean, like I would like him and I. We had a mutual friend, and him and I would like be getting like a meal together after the show, and I kind of be like, yeah. Before you go, like, look at this idea of mine. I mean, it kind of was like that, Back when I didn't know him as well as I do now. Now, I'm proud to say Darick and I are buddies.
I wish we could have had the puppet in the fourth box down there. That cool.
I thought about bringing it home. I thought about bringing that puppet home. I knew I was going to regret not bringing it. I'll send you some pictures. You can just do a still picture.
We'll Photoshop them in.
That COVID came and we were like, oh fuck, it's going to be hard to get Darick to be, to go to these appearances, and we're not sure how into it. I mean, he's been doing this a long time. How into it. We love it because we started. Somebody even talks to us. We like just talking about the book. But Darick's a busy guy, and I thought, I think it'll really help if we get a puppet made that looks just like him, and we'll bring that around. You know, I mean, we just I don't know. And then I was afraid to tell him that we made a puppet.
I was about to ask, how do you feel about the puppet?
And we had Mark Wade, and I was like, listen, we made this video with the puppet, and I was like, listen, guys, I got this puppet. It looks like Darick, and we showed him the video, and he's like, where the hell did you guys get that puppet? And I'm like, I don't want to post that yet though, because Darick doesn't know we had a puppet made. You know, we're gonna have to talk to him about it. And we got Mark Wade to kind of ease it in with him, and he you know, Darick loved it. Darick was a big fan of the Muppet Show apparently, and he had like Muppets when he was a kid and everything, and he, you know, he thought he really made it when somebody finally made a Muppet out of him. Which I guess is, you know, I guess you get a sandwich named after you, that's one thing. You get a street named after you, that's another. But you get a damn Muppet made out of you, you know, that's he made it big time. You know, he was really.
Mine is to become a Simpson character. That'd be great, but I doubt it'll ever happen.
I still watch that clip from The Simpsons where they have like Spiegelman, Alan Moore. I'm trying to think who the third guy was. But Alan Moore's like all ripped underneath and all this stuff. But yeah, like I love whenever there's like deep nerd culture becomes part of The Simpsons, it makes me really happy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the comic book guy's new comic, or it's the rival comic shop that moved in next door, and they have the signing. They get those three guys. I'm trying to remember who the third one is too.
I can't remember who the third one is. I know Spiegelman and Moore are there. Yeah.
And then Spiegelman's ripped up too, and he puts on the mouse face.
Yeah.
Oh man. And so what is, you know, we have a hardcover copy here.
Yeah.
And then coins. You know, we got all kinds of merchandise, but you know, for people who aren't familiar with Space Bastards, what is Space Bastards? How would you guys, you know, bring more people into this community?
When you lure them into your booth,
how do you lure them in? Other than candy.
Well, we get that puppet. We get that puppet out there. We put a bag on Eric's face, and then we grab that beautiful hardcover and we walk out. And now, you know, first, it's an indie book. You know, there's a lot of people watching superhero movies now, reading books from the big two, and this is an indie book. It's a mature reader's comic. It's a sci-fi comic, and its basic premises. It's, you know, it's set in a not too distant future, and mankind has colonized the galaxy, but infrastructure is not quite there. The economy is bad. Unemployment's sky high, and you know, I usually tell the person, look, you know, you've lost your job, you've got nothing else to lose. You join the Intergalactic Postal Service, and this is the best paying but the most dangerous job in the galaxy. And that's because the postal carriers are encouraged to intercept or kill their co-workers and steal their packages to deliver them. And the one that makes the delivery actually gets paid, and the ones that don't end up with nothing. And the more times the package changes hands, the more times you hear partial transfer, that means the value for that delivery goes up. So it's like Uber on steroids, is what I tell people, or Postmates, you know, on steroids. You get to shoot at your coworkers, you get shot at, but you can make a lot of money. And the lifespan of an average postal worker is, you know, 40 minutes. You know, they don't last long. And it's a crazy job, and it gets packages across the galaxy really quickly, and it avoids things like, or gets around the problem of space pirates and the other natural disasters that could impede movement of goods. And so initially, this job, you know, just attracts or appeals to people who, you know, who had a violent background. Maybe they were, you know, ex-law enforcement, or they were military guys or prisoners. But our book focuses in on people from normal walks of life who start to, you know, have lost their job, or they've had some other left turn in their life, and there's some other terrible circumstances, and they just have to work in this really, really dangerous, ridiculous job with whatever skill set they had. And so it's, you know, it's the gig economy, it's freedom, and it's, you know, and it's just ridiculous. It's a ridiculous, violent comic, and it's drawn by, you know, the best artists in the business, really. And people describe it as a throwback, but I think the way we kind of tackle capitalism and it as a religion, you know, and in this country, I think it's you know, topical and current anyway. That's most of that is how I get people in the booth. By then they're gone, and they've gone off to buy some earrings or something else. But that usually holds them there for a couple of minutes.
I would say too. I mean, like there's a lot of like, I don't know. If people they don't want to get the full Glacier, you know, pitch or whatever, I would say if you like Fight Club, or you like Tarantino movies, or you wish Star Wars was made by David Fincher or Quentin Tarantino or something, this I think would appeal to you. You know, it's a lot of male nudity. Also, that's the other thing. If you're really into male nudity, and
We're into the
like
Jackass.
bizarre comedic male nudity.
Jackass in space. With a,
Yeah, Jackass in space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys brought up Mark Waid, and I'm just I don't know the guy, but he wrote Kingdom Come and something, like this isn't the book that I would think would attract him. So how did that come about? Did you guys send it to him, or?
No, we pitched it to, or we sent appeals to a lot of different publishers, right? And we sent it to Humanoids, who had done, they're the original metal Urlop guys, the heavy metal guys. The magazine actually originated in France with Mobius, and those guys, they're the guys that did Incal, and these kind of iconic sci-fi properties. It was a foreign publisher. They had a lot of great foreign reach, and their the things they were asking for in the submission packet were really interesting. And at the time, I think the editor was this guy Fabrice Sapolsky, and so he was the guy that was attracted to it, and it was right up their alley. It was fit into that niche of stuff that they tend to be proud of and they promote. I mean, they do all kinds of different things. And then it was sort of surprised that Mark was on. It was surprised to me, and I think Eric also, that Mark got on board. Just a couple of months into our relationship with Humanoids, and he came on, and we met with him, and it was amazing. I'll let Eric go into it, but he was very complimentary. He read the book, and he said that this is what he said. He said that the first issue is one of the strongest first issues that he's ever read of any book, and he said, including some that he's written, and he wrote or helped write some of the stuff for Humanoids. They were trying a superhero property, maybe about a year before ours came out, and he said, this was better than my stuff, and he was just really complimentary, and he loved it. Which was amazing. Am I distorting that, Eric?
That's great. I always think I actually distort it. I think I distort because I thought he wrote the
well, it turns out he'd edited. I think they had already were kind of bringing him in, and he'd edited that.
Okay, that was my favorite part, was that they had the best submission guide, and I still say this to like aspiring writers and all that stuff. Because I'm like, even if you're not going to submit to Humanoids, go read their submission guidelines, because it actually teaches you a lot about writing. It helped us learn how to pitch our book better.
How to describe the project, how to think about it. Yeah.
There's all this stuff in there about plot-based versus character-based storytelling. How would you describe your story? Is your story more character-based, or character-driven versus plot-driven? All that stuff.
It wasn't like how to sell it or who it's going to be for. It's more like, just tell us about the book, which was awesome.
But it was legit questions where you're like, oh yeah, I've never asked myself this before. It was really, really cool. And then come to find out that was kind of from Mark. My funniest, Mark, I was in my backyard smoking, and I was on a Zoom with it was me, Joe, one of the guys at Humanoids, that kind of Alex, who really kind of works with us on a lot of stuff, and then Mark, and I'm trying to think if there was anybody else. But Mark sits there, and I'm holding my phone. I'm not like this in my hotel room with my iPad. I'm sitting in my backyard with my and totally unprofessional. And Mark's like, I've never. He goes how old are you? And I was I told him, it's amazing, man. I've never seen anybody make such a perfectly on brand comic like this before. And as he's giving, and then he starts telling me, he's just it's like I'm looking at, and he mentioned a bunch of writers' names that I love, that I grew up reading, because I grew up reading a bunch of 2000 AD and stuff. But he picked up on all my influences without me mentioning them. And while he's complimenting me, a bee is flying by my head, and I hate bees. So while he's trying to compliment me, I've got my phone in my hand, and I'm just running around my backyard trying to knock it.
Making all this noise. Yeah, he starts making all this noise. We're getting complimented.
We're getting complimented by Mark Waid.
He's seeing good shit. No one's read our book. No one's looked at it. No one's given us any fucking feedback. And we finally have it in front of somebody. We have basically Jesus Christ standing there who's read our book, and Eric's chased around by a bee, and he's screaming like a girl. And I can't hear what Mark Waid is fucking saying. And I'm like, Eric, fuck, just get stung and get the epinephrine, get the fuck out. You're not your phone.
Cigarette hanging out of my mouth, so breathing smoke into the camera.
And most bees are repelled by smoke, but Eric smokes these floral, I guess this floral cigarette. I don't know what kind of fucking cigarette that was, or cigar, whatever that was. The bee was just on him.
Looking all gorilla like you're in the jungle.
we finished.
And everybody stops. We just watch Eric dance around with this fucking insect. And Mark loses his train of thought, and we never got it. Like,
he never finished his thought.
No, we never finished this. And it's done. You can't get that again. You can't get that.
I'm like, Mark, I'm sorry. Can you? I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. Please. He goes. I've got fucking vertigo, Eric. I don't understand.
Coitus interruptus is what it was. It was just we were about in there.
Awesome.
Man, that story though, I'm sorry to say, is probably 10 times better, than just receiving the compliments.
Well,
it wouldn't happen any other way. There's a thing, and for real, it influences the book. I was saying my goodbye. There's a bar that I've gone to for years, and I was like saying goodbye to people, and I was like perfectly. I mean, I was drinking, but I was just like, it was like the perfect, no drama. I was a wonderful host. I had a bunch of friends there, and I'm like, goodbye, everybody. The reason I'm deviating, you'll see in a second, is like, okay, if that story ends right now, I'm getting into my lift to go home. That's not a Space Bastard story, and that's not an Eric story either. No story I tell Joe ends that way. As I'm getting into my lift, and I'm like in a suit, it was like, like mic drop moment, like, fucking love you guys, see ya. And as I'm getting in my lift, I get hit right in the head with a frisbee. And it's like 2 a.m. I'm like, who's playing frisbee in the bar parking lot at 2 a.m? And I'm just like stunned, and I'm embarrassed. I get in the car, and I think a guy who's doing it with his girlfriend was just like really like, I think he did I think he ran up to my lips and was like, I'm so sorry. And I think I just drove off like just fuck. But the point is that like a Space Bastard story or an Eric story, like it ends with, it does not end with the guy's success getting in the lift. It ends with, it's something else has got to happen. Mark can't compliment us without making an ass out of ourselves or something. Yeah.
When you were talking about the first issue, how Mark said that's how you grab somebody, that book, that first issue, we loved it. We were
thanks.
Amazing to everybody. We're like, you need to pick up Space Bastard, like everyone we saw, because we knew that this was gold, and we just want more people to say this and talk about Space Bastards, because it is gold. It's like you said, it's Star Wars with some Tarantino flair, and that's badass. That's something I would have never thought of ever.
I think it's like Star Wars. I always feel weird about the Star Wars thing, but you just reminded me of something. It would be like if in Star Wars it turned out that the Jedi Knights were like not real, that it was like some hokey fucking religion or something. You know what I mean? There is that. That's the one difference I think between this, is that any of the mythical wizard stuff in Star Wars would just be like some tool of capitalism and Space Bastards,
Definitely, it is capitalism.
Right.
But I think books like this and like the work that you guys do is phenomenal, because it shows the other side of comics. Like everybody, as soon as you start talking comic books, it goes to Marvel, DC. Fortunately now Image is starting to get big enough. But you guys saying that humanoids actually post up all those questions that have you think, teach you how to actually pitch.
Smart, yeah.
Fantastic, man. That's great. I love that, because sometimes it does feel, or we hear people having conversations about gatekeeping and making it difficult to actually get a story written, but then you remember, hey, independent comics exist, and you can pitch your own idea and make your own thing without the constraints of licensing and things like that. And so resources like that, man, are phenomenal, and getting books like this out to the people. That's why we actually love reading independent books, because people need to know there's a way to tell and I want to stop saying Star Wars, but there's a way to tell those kinds of stories where you can have all that liberty, and you guys do a fantastic job of doing that, man. It's not just like fan fiction. This is like legit.
This is your guys' baby right here, and it came to life.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
Dude, and that's like I said, like these dudes were saying, first issue, we just kind of looked at each other. I remember reading it the first time. We're like, what?
Because what we used to do is we would get all the books
stack,
and we'd have you again. We had Marvel, DC, Image, and Space Bastards that we saw that grabbed our eye. Seen Manicorn on the cover with that gun. It was just like, we need to read this. The comic shop picked up probably 2, and we read it, and we're like, read everything else.
Well, because we we're working through our stack, and it's like, as soon as I think I can't remember who read it first.
I think it was me.
But you were like, you need to read this one next.
Now.
Yeah.
Like right
read it
now.
next.
And then it was like, oh shit.
And then we
You need
passed
to read
it.
this one now.
And by the
I
end of it,
remember, yeah.
and we're like, okay,
do we really
so
want
we're
to
not,
finish
we don't
reading
even
the
want to
pile?
read
Because I
it.
think this is it.
This is our pick right
Yeah,
here.
we do our pick for the week every week, and
That's what we do. And like we said, this was a chef's kiss. And Mark Wade said it for you guys. It's a chef's kiss to hear that compliment. It's like, dude, that guy written so much great stuff, and to get a compliment from him, and a bee attacking you while you're being complimented. That's gonna be badass.
Man, that bee was a real bastion.
You guys mean so much to us. I really appreciate it. I mean that sincerely. Like, even weird things. I know those comics obviously did not come out yesterday, right? Though for anybody who does not have them, you can go to spacebastards.com and pick up deluxe awesome hardcovers.
We'll have links below.
Yeah.
All right, cool. But
People.
you know, we worked on this stuff so long ago, and it's been out and all that stuff. But I gotta tell you, it's like even hearing you guys say Manicorn's name, like, yeah, we look at the cover and Manicorn grabbed us. And it's just still surreal. Like years later to me, it's still surreal to hear other people say those characters' names back at me. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Yeah.
And seeing, yours was one of the first shows. I mean, I the comics out, and it was like January, like, I don't know, what do people do? Do people just review these things, or people talking? And I searched for it, and your show came up, and it was great to see three guys. I mean, that was the thing about it, because what I like about your show is that you read the books first of all, and you read the indie books, and you judge them all according to, you can tell the ones that entertained you, the ones that didn't entertain you, and you guys have a little discussion about it. And it reminded me of the discussions like Eric and I'd have when we were just working out the story, like we're breaking out a story or a scene or whatever. We just go back and forth until we were making each other laugh, or we're like, okay, that's it, and to see you guys digest it and like discuss it and like hit some of that same stuff, go through some of that same process, years later while reading it, it's fantastic. And I think that the three-man dynamic was how do these three guys get together every week, read all these fucking books, and then sit there and talk about it and remember the details and everything? It had a real natural flow. It just felt like you were watching some friends, or they were just guys you knew. It was great seeing you guys do that. I felt like I know these guys, and it got to the point where like I don't even care what happens. If these three guys, if these guys are happy with the book and they mention it, we've done our job. I wonder what these guys are going to think issue 5. It would always come to my mind each time one of the issues would come out. It was great.
Yeah, there's weird stylistic changes, and kind of like Joe and I were talking the other day about The Wire, and like how or not just The Wire, but like certain stories, I guess, that like test viewer patience, but then like reward it later on or whatever. And it's not like because of The Wire we did that, but there's definitely, I think, issues in there that kind of like test your patience. Either the artist changes, or we go to a completely different corner of everything for a little bit or whatever. And so it was like any of that stuff, seeing you guys cover it was always like kind of super interesting to me.
I mean, to us, reading comics, digging for books, everything, it's almost therapeutic. It's like we're fortunate enough to be in an age where we have so many of these great books coming out, and we're getting an opportunity to meet a lot of these creators, and that's probably been the most fun, because for so long we were just picking them up and reading them and not, just kind of giving our 2 cents about it. But I think that's why it was important for us to get guys like you. We actually, it's funny you mentioned The Wires. We also had Rodney Barnes on here a few weeks ago.
Oh, really?
So we did that. That one's we have that one uploaded. That interview uploaded as well. But he was saying the same thing about his writing process, and how it's different from writing television to writing comics and things like that. And you guys being in the movies and all that, how did you guys find that transition? How did you guys, was there some like, all right, we gotta, you mentioned you wrote another comic before, right? So who published it, or who produced that one?
I published that myself.
Okay.
It's like lost to the sands of time until soon. I've got some stuff now I'm kind of working on, just to kind of like put it, I won't promote it, but it'll be like, just so if anybody's interested, you can go get it here or whatever. But
go ahead and promote it.
Because I don't want to take attention away from Space Bastards. I mean, Space Bastards really is my favorite thing, and it's the biggest labor of love for me. But to answer your question, it was like I did some one shots and stuff independently, and then I did this comic that was pretty foolhardy to tackle, but I was like, I'm not stopping until this thing's done. It's going to be 3 graphic novels, and these are the artists. It's going to be a different artist per graphic novel. And I want to say it was like, when all was said and done, I want to say it was like 450 pages or something like that was that whole thing. By the end of that, I think I kind of knew how to write comic scripts my way. You know what I mean? Like, I know how to do panel breakdowns, all that stuff. I know I think we pretty easily, Joe and I, kind of moved from that into writing Space Bastards when we decided to make Space Bastards a comic. Like, but I think we still thought of story structure or outlining the stories in terms of like TV shows, or like looking at that first year of Space Bastards to us is like a TV season, you know? I think a lot of that stuff kind of came across. The things that I'm proudest of on like the actual script writing part of it. Well, I guess there's 2 things on the writing side I think I'm like most proud of. We would, by the end, Joe and I kind of really found this mode of, here's like the first draft of the story, which really isn't, it's like 15 drafts in, but like, this is the outline that if we were going to try to tell a normal story, it's done, here it is. And then we'd always pause and take this moment and like try and make each other laugh. Like, well, what if this left turn happens instead? And we would tear apart the whole thing, and like, it would just basically completely tilt the story on its head. And we'd look at it from a new angle that way, which was cool. From an outlining perspective, that was always like kind of my proudest thing. And that came out of, I think, both of us trying to elicit a reaction out of each other. Like, we're each other's greatest fans, if that makes sense. And then on the actual like panel to panel side, when it came time to actually write the comic scripts, once we chose, hey, we know we want to work with Bisley on this thing, right? Or we know we want to work with Bisley. Bisley wants to work with us. What is the perfect Bisley story? This one's the perfect Bisley story. Or in our case, there were like 3 of them. I would go like just like live in Bisley comics, like just heaps of Bisley comics for like weeks. And so I'd study and absorb all that. So that way, ideally, when I'm actually writing the scripts, I'm thinking in terms of his visual language. And I think that, you know, if you have any writers or like aspiring writers or anything like that watching, that was the first time I decided to do that sort of attempt. And I think it works well in Space Bastards. Like, a Colin McNeil Space Bastards story flows like a Colin McNeil, you know, story. You know, maybe not his work on Judge Dredd, maybe they're slightly different, but I think it fits him really well. And I think the Bisley stories fit him really well. Clearly the Darick stories fit Darick really well, all that, you know.
It's when too, when you start like you're writing and you are thinking about them, and kind of trying to tailor the story, but when you start to see how these guys read and translate it, you start to realize what's coming through when you're writing the script. And I think we got a lot leaner and more efficient, you know, as it went along, and we worked with different artists, and the artists, you know, would take it way down the road. I mean, they're you know, visually will come up with way more than what you can ever imagine. And once we got familiar with that, you know, we would kind of step back, and we could be more, we could be as descriptive, but yeah, it just got faster. We were really,
we became pretty economic in that.
Yeah, I guess that's the right way to put it. Yeah.
Were you guys touching up things after you got the art back? Were you like, oh shit, like it would be funnier if he said this or that, or once you sent off the scripts, were you like hands off?
Dialogue would sometimes change, but usually no. Usually I don't think we really. Sometimes the dialogue, you know, sews something together better. You know, you could kind of, if you need, you know, occasionally you need to sort of explain something or something that didn't come across. But no, you know, usually what we got was, and a lot of times we took stuff out. Like there's too much goddamn dialogue, or there was a heading or some kind of setting, and it's just they did such a good job with the transition or with something ridiculous happening. You just want to get your words out of there and just let it, you know, let the art speak for itself. Really, I mean that's probably the biggest difference. You know, if you kind of read through it, you'll start seeing that and kind of back off.
One of the things that Darick taught me early on was lettering scripts. I never did them before, right? Because typically the guys I was working with on my prior comic were lettering their own work. And then I'd always insist, like, yeah, give me the like PSDs so that way I can go in and like fix grammar and stuff if I need to, you know? So I never had to do lettering scripts. And so Darick teaching me, no, man, like you have a letterer, like you have a guy that letters your book, and hopefully it's the same letterer in every issue. So there's like, consistent language. He goes, you have to give that guy a letterer script, and what that is you strip out all the direction you're giving the artist, and you're just giving him the breakdown of action and then officially the dialogue. Like, he's going to copy and paste that, and that extra step in the process kind of did help us a lot, because Joe and I would, every time when we're doing that lettering script, you're like looking at the finished artwork, which you didn't have when you wrote the script, right? I mean, now you have it, and then you're getting your last chance to fine tune all that dialogue.
Yeah.
And that extra step is like, we're both like filmmaker, editor guys. It's like, for us, that's like the dream come true, like Final Cut, to be like, oh yeah, we don't need this word bubble. Like, this is too much. Or there's a scene in, there's a space fight in the Resurrection Mary issue that I love, but there's a thing where he puts on like reverse thrusters, and everything is so perfect about that entire space fight. I mean, it's like the best space fight I've maybe seen in comics, and that's due to Colin McNeil. That is not due to me or Joe at all, but it's brilliant. But there's like there's this one point where I'm like, it's like, it's almost clear what's happening, but we just need to add in lettering. It's just like, reverse thrusters or something to kind of like back that up a little bit, just in case anybody's not clear about the change in direction, So there's just like all sorts of little things you can do. And we wouldn't have added that in if we didn't have the art present. So it really is kind of that last step to really kind of make sure everything flows.
And sometimes it's just dialogue you're punching up. It's just like, what's funnier here? Is it ball sack or yarn bag? What would be funnier? You just have to, play it back and then we come up with something else maybe.
We'll duel on that. I mean, we'll sit there and be like, nah, I don't know. Like, let's see if we can do better or whatever. We'll sleep on it. Yeah. Good.
So are you guys currently, do you guys currently have any pull list anywhere? Are you guys picking up any current books, or is there anything that's like, you guys are, oh dang, I got to read that every month, or I got to get on top of that, I want to read that? Anything current right now?
I don't have a current pull list. I haven't been reading. I was reading, I tried to read Ennis's stuff when it, that's Eric's picture right there. I try to read Ennis's stuff when it comes out, anything he's got going on, or I'll wait for a trade or something on that. I think his what was it, Marjorie Finnegan, Temporal Criminal was the last thing I was kind of keeping up with. And I read Giger when that was out, because it was out around the same time ours came out. It was really good. But classically it was the things I think that influenced me the most. Growing up, I was reading Big Two stuff. I wasn't even reading the anything, the original Hama run on G.I. Joe and a lot of Spider-Man and stuff like that. But the Punisher Max, and I liked a lot of those Max series, the Destroyer Max. I don't know if you guys ever saw that. That's something I really enjoyed. I like the whole Ennis's Punisher his whole run, going back to that, the Barracuda.
Yeah.
And God, a lot of those fights and a lot of that, just that ethos and that energy, and even Darick, his artwork was in there when remember when Wolverine and Punisher were in the sewer and they were fighting those the dwarfs, the little people, that aim low is the name of that. God, and he's just swinging a bat, like Punisher Frank's just swinging a bat, and you just see like a dwarf like upside down, and there's like red mist in the air, and I mean, I love that stuff. I love those Punisher.
I think it's the same one when Wolverine gets his like face blasted off, right?
Yeah. Bring up the Wolverine getting the shotgun to the face, and he's going
nuts, and he gets one over the steam. Yeah.
And then Darick also, you probably already said it while I was moving into the bathroom, but the Punisher Born, where like Darick did that with you, right?
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay.
Joe and I do we have like this Venn diagram that I certainly like a lot of stuff that he doesn't like, and vice versa maybe. And then there's like this little, vagina shaped thing in the middle where we're all, we're like, oh yeah, both like Punisher, Garth Ennis' Punisher Max stuff, Yeah.
Well, that vagina thing.
I don't know what it was called, where the two circles overlap,
That was my favorite part.
But yeah, for me, I don't know. Alan Moore is great. I grew up, Garth Ennis stuff. Preacher changed my life. A lot of TV shows and like non-comic stuff kind of informed me too. So I'm a gigantic, I guess it is kind of comic stuff, but I'm a gigantic DCAU fan, huge DCAU fan, all the Bruce Timm, Paul Dini stuff, and then The Wire. I don't know.
Repo,
I like
Cannonball Run, that kind of that kind of stuff. You know, crazy.
Yeah.
Movies. Yeah.
Did you ever read through all of Transmetropolitan?
Oh yeah. I mean, that was the thing that I think, to be honest with you, when we were thinking of like who should really design the look of the universe, that was really the thing that drew me to Darick. You know, it was just like Transmet was huge for me.
Yeah.
I was a gigantic Hunter S. Thompson fan too, so I mean, like Transmet's just like a drop in the bucket for me. Like, it gets everything right, you know.
It's one of those comics that not many people have actually heard of, at least from our experience. But shit, when people start asking for suggestions, that's probably one of them. Things like Saga, things like what else do we recommend? Space Bastards now. Philadelphia.
I never know. Whenever I always feel like I get put on the spot, and I'm like, I don't know books. I've never read.
I mean, it's always that thing. It's like, if you were to ask me, I mean, Joe, I'm always so thankful Joe brings up the Punisher stuff, because I think that's kind of like out. It's not like totally in left field, but it's like, if you ask me, I'm gonna be like, oh man, Watchmen, V for Vendetta, like 2000 AD. I mean, it's gonna be all the stuff that you just kind of read Space Bastards and like assume, you know, that I would grow up reading. The Judge Dredd, you know, all that stuff. But it's like Punisher, that Punisher series. The Punisher, like the 60 issues or 72 issues, whatever it is, that Max series is pretty amazing. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
That Barracuda fight, well, I guess there's a few of them, but we would reference that stuff constantly in ours. Like, I mean, just, we would hold it like the barometer, you know what I mean? It would be like the litmus test, like, does this stand up to that? It's like, you know, crazy, whatever I'm going to mispronounce this, but like tete-a-tete, you know,
visceral and the intensity and
but like hit and then hit and then hit and then hit and then all that stuff.
Yeah, that's great stuff.
Yeah.
So what's next for Space Bastards?
We're retired. We made so much money off of it. We want more Space Bastards. In fact, I mean, we talk about it all the time. We just talked about it this week. It's not over. The band's not over. You know, we all the artists want to work on it. Joe and I want to work on it. The Humanoids want to work on it. Everybody wants to work on it. We fund the TV seasons of Space Bastards. We fund the artists that we pay basically out of the sales of that hardcover copy. So those hardcover volumes 1 through 4 that you can find on spacebastards.com help us make year 2 happen. So that's currently what we're in, like total sales slut mode, and you're trying to get this stuff out there.
That's our mission then, to get the next season going, because we need the next season, because it's a fantastic book. Like, we can't say enough how much we enjoy
thank you.
Series.
I mean, we've written stuff. I can tell you that. It's like, it's not like we're just like sitting on our thumbs just being like, well, I don't want to write it. Like, we always are writing, the next round of ideas and refining it and all that stuff. The thing is like Joe and I just really like making each other laugh or eliciting some sort of response out of each other. So it's pretty hard for us to not do that. Space Bastards is like the vehicle to just tell any story that we want kind of to each other, so.
Totally. It's such an expansive universe, and there's so many characters. I feel like you could go anywhere and kind of do like whatever you want, which is great.
Yeah, agreed.
That's good. That's the way we hope it feels.
But yeah, guys, keep doing it, please. We'll do everything we can on our end to push the book, because you guys got something special here, and like I said, we can't get enough of it. We love it. Once my kids are old enough, I'll let them read it. Still got about 2 years left.
I had to my son was like, you keep saying this name of your book, and he's 7. He's just like, I think it's like a bad word, and I was like, it's not like the most politest word. It depends where you are in the world, but here's the deal: is you don't say that word in school. You can say it around me, all that stuff, but I need you to know it's not a very polite word, and all that. So, and then it was like the dumb, the weird guilty thing where it's just like a week later, he's like, that's cool. So why would, you're a good person, why would you make a book with such a word in it?
That's the thing. He's not a good person. He's not. Maybe he's not actually a good person.
When you find out your dad's Cobra Commander.
That's right.
It's actually your dad's autobiography.
I can't be Destro. I can't be like. You gotta be like
it's you have to market. I didn't really count on that, and we don't know what we're doing with marketing. I just will post like a nutsack or like a fart noise or about every third day, and I don't know why I think that's going to sell books, but we just do it. We have an Instagram, and I'll just do that, and then magically, why doesn't that work? We don't know, but I constantly think like I'll just get my daughter to read some dialogue, like read Roy's speech or read just one little passage from it, and just hearing that come out of a sweet 8-year-old girl's mouth. But the problem is that I think for sure she'll use all those words in school, and I will not be able to be her father, after that. But if it's sold some books, it'd almost be worth it. Eric, what do you think? You just get the kids to act it out?
I love Joe does the majority of the posts on the Space Bastard.
That's what I was saying. Who does all the little videos and stuff?
That's me doing that shit, man. It's just
I try to give him ammunition. I try to give him embarrassing stories about myself or whatever, so we can like do something with it. And there's a lot of them, but like no, he's doing that, and I think it's great. I think it kind of works if you know who we are. Then like if you've already read the book, then like you're like, no, of course this is how that Instagram is. What doesn't work so well is like
stumble upon it, not knowing what you're getting into.
Well, it's not that. I think it's more like Joe and I grew up in like the 90s and the 80s and stuff, where it's kind of like, if there was like if you were into Star Wars and like a new Star Wars book came out, you found out about that because your friend whispered about it, and you like maybe you overheard, or you were like at the bookstore and like actively asking. It doesn't really work that way anymore. Like the readership, the way to market to readers doesn't work that way anymore. It's totally more, I don't want to use like criticizing words, but it's like, you can like sit in the minute like you open your phone, whoever has the most money to advertise to you is like bombarding you with the next thing you should go buy. You know what I mean? If everybody in the world is telling you this thing's really good, but it's everybody in the world is telling you, and they're saying like I don't know, like insert celebrity name here is in this, or they're telling you like it's okay. Like there's so much, hey, come get this thing, it's okay. There's so much of that cultivating, I think, how people consume media nowadays, that like, I mean, that's the thing that we didn't exist, or that we didn't react properly to or adjust for it ahead of time, which is like, we're just two older dudes, like middle-aged men, like marketing kind of how we have technology, but we're marketing how you would market 20 years ago.
I mean, that's why having you guys is great. I mean, because clear, I think you guys are sincere. You guys aren't. The other thing is there's a collector's contingent on Instagram. What's a key issue? What was the first appearance of Venom's ass, or his left foot was in this panel, so I got to get this. And what the fuck? I mean, that's fine. You can make money that way. And there's a whole economy. And you guys, I think you probably have collector. I mean, there's shit on your back wall there. It's probably worth more than anything I've got in this room. I mean, you guys but that's not your emphasis. You actually read the books, and you read an indie book. And an indie book, you're at a disadvantage. I mean, it's hard for an indie book unless you got Keanu with somebody on there, or so you make a movie out of it tomorrow. It's hard. It's hard.
The low blow.
I mean, it's not going to be economically that people are going to run out for it to hoard it and hold on to it like it's gold or something. You actually have to appreciate the story, and then you have to get people to read it, and then. And there are channels where like you guys, where you guys actually read it and discuss it and think about it. And you compare it to other books, and you kind of know what's out there, and you keep up with it, which is hard to do. And that's we rely on that. I know a lot of these other indie guys, some of these other indie guys didn't even have a publisher. You're reading their stuff and you're talking about it, or they're in between projects or whatever. And I mean it's the only way that these kind of books are going to survive or get heard about. Which we really appreciate.
Yeah.
Like we always say, comic books it's a luxury. Like it's something that we really feel we're very fortunate. We're very fortunate to like be able to read comics and be able to pick them up every week when we would, and we talk about them. And when we're able to get that many books and read them, it's a luxury to us, and we enjoy it, and we enjoy talking about these. And the indie books is like our big thing that we really like to pull, because everybody talks about the big two. Everybody talks about that. And it's just like
Venom doesn't need any help.
Yeah, Venom doesn't.
You know,
Marvel and DC don't need more money. We need to make sure that we're getting the new writers, the new people that aren't being talked about as much, and we need them to be spotlighted. We need the Space Bastards and the other guys like the Bloodstones, like that. We need to make sure that voice is being heard and those stories are being told, because they're great stories, and we want to make sure that they're seen by the masses.
Yeah, we don't need.
I think we're kind of unified that way too. And not to say that Space Bastards is a great story; it shouldn't come from me, anything like that. But like, the thing I like about all this stuff is it encourages other writers to make more diverse stories, which is what I want. You know, there's all these agendas in comic book writing and all these things, all these wars to tackle, and then at the same time, you know that if you're gonna make money in comics, you kind of have to do it with an incredibly popular licensed character. I mean, like everybody does it. They like I do it. I'm like, man, I don't think I'd ever want to write Iron Man. I mean, you know, I can't get any work done there. Like anything cool I would do with the character, they just erase like 4 issues later. Like, mark my words, like fast forward like 15 years, and if I'm lucky, I will be like, come by Iron Man 457, man. It's awesome. It's the wonderful thing where he loses his left leg or whatever. Like, you know, I become a whore for Marvel eventually. The point is though, is that like, it's so important, I think, in this market that writers and artists and creators are like, they still feel that there's an audience out there that can read different things, because that's how these like new licenses get created, or these new paths kind of get forged, you know, which happens a lot less nowadays, I think, than it used to, you know. So we're eternally grateful for the readers that read, you know, not just collect, but read. It's really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Space Bastards, the movie, 2023.
That's right.
Make sure you get that key issue and the key hardcover, every key you can get.
Yeah.
They're all keys.
Yeah.
Or the key of Coke.
Key of Coke. That's what those lines were.
Oh, I thought that was a printing error when I opened it. All that dust fell out.
Hey, no wonder it's real nice.
It's actually anthrax, but just that's okay.
Oh man. Well, as Isaac was saying, you know, we do find it that it is a luxury, and I'm the cheap guy in the group, and I always tell everyone, like, I don't need to spend $10 on that Spider-Man 1000. But indie comics like this, dollar for dollar, guys, best value on the market, guaranteed.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. You probably won't you won't see that in the videos, but I'm pretty cheap sometimes.
That's never come through in the videos. Huh?
But we spend hard-earned money on this stuff, guys. Please pick it up as well.
Say the website for us one more time, guys.
That's right.
Really, it's complicated. It's spacebastards.com for everybody. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Which somehow, I don't know, it doesn't get blocked on SEO. I don't know. I know bastards isn't like the worst swear word in the world, but I'm still kind of amazed we got.
Yeah, well, the Game of Thrones says it like every 2 minutes. So
That's true, right? Yeah.
The dude lost his head for it.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh man.
Well, we thank you guys for your time. We appreciate you guys. We'll have links for the video when it's out. And again, thank you. And you guys are going to be with Darick soon at a convention, right? In Arizona?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
February.
In February. Cool.
That's right. February. It's the what is this? The Arizona Comic Book Arts Festival, and it's February the 25th. We're gonna have the puppet. We have Darick. We have a bunch of
Two Darricks. Yeah.
Two Darricks. One, guess which one is the real one, and then me and Eric.
Awesome.
And a bunch of books.
We'll try to go out and try to make it out there if we can.
We missed you guys. You know, that was a big regret from San Diego. We didn't have those drinks with you guys. But if you come out to Arizona, we will fix that, and you'll get to have it with Darick. We'll all do karaoke, man. We'll go out and karaoke.
One of our goals is to try and make it out to other states' conventions. So
yeah,
put that on there.
Again, Joe, Eric, thank you so very much for your time, guys. again, we'll send out those links. Until then, we were in the Comic Cave with Eric and Joe Aubrey from the Space Bastard. Guys, again, thank you. You have a good night.
Thank you.
Guys.
Cheers.
Have a good night.
Later.
Yeah.